In this chapter, we will start implementing the reframe loop for the authentication process. There are two major parts to this chapter: initializing reframe and setting up your project, and then actually implementing the reframe loop. We will skip through the initialization process in the video and recommend that you use the notes to follow along. And this screencast will only cover the reframe aspects of the authentication. Once you have installed reframe and set up the Firebase namespace, you can start with the dispatch process. The first piece of the domino is to dispatch a login event from the page component in the pages.login namespace. We built this component in the previous chapter but omitted the onClick handler of the submit function. First, let's import reframe.code in this namespace, and then we can update the onClick function to dispatch app domain firebase/login with Firebase event. We have not created a handler for this event yet. If you find the event name to be verbose, you can use a shorter version like FB login with email. We use namespaced keyword because we chose to segregate reframe components by domain. Having a namespaced keyword immediately lets you know where the handler of this event will be defined. But again, this is a personal choice. To test the dispatch function, you can click the submit button manually or use inline evaluation with dummy values. You will see a warning message in your console saying that the dispatched event ID is not yet registered. Next, we can create an event handler for this ID. We dispatched an event. Now we need to capture and process it using a pure function. For this, we need reframe.core/registerEventFX function. Before creating event handlers, it is a good idea to consider the plan of action. We need to call the login function with email and password in the form. We might need a loading indicator. If the login fails, we need to show an error message. And if the login succeeds, we need to save the user to cache and redirect to some private route. The error handling and redirect happens after the login function, i.e. the side effect is called, so it is out of the scope of this handler. With this in mind, let's populate the Firebase namespace. We first import all the required libraries, and then we define the login with email handler. Notice the double colon. The double colon is a shorthand to add the current namespace as a prefix to the keyword. Reframe will call this handler function with the coeffects map and the dispatched event. The form state is a map of email and password since we dispatched the event with a derived state atom. Next, we return a map of effects to be applied. The DB key with the new value where we set the value of login loading in global appdb to true. This flag will help us create a visual indicator, and the Firebase email auth effect with the credentials entered in the form. Unlike DB, this is a custom effect that we will write soon. It is important for these handlers to be pure because that lets us snapshot the state of the app and go back and forward in time. It also makes testing way easier. Suppose this handler was impure. For example, we dispatched another event to maintain the number of times a user tried to log in. The code above will work but will cause issues in the reframe mental model. Now, if these functions are pure and applied in order, we can maintain a list of the incremental states and go back and forward in time. We can also write tests without considering the logging statement. With an impure handler like this one, the effectful call to dispatch will be queued in the event queue and executed asynchronously. It might resolve before or after the current event, leading to an odd state, breaking time travel abilities, and becoming hard to test. The reframe authors also suggest that impure event handlers lead to an increased cognitive load for future maintainers since the event is no longer local. So in short, you can get away with it, but you should avoid it and stay pure. The right way to handle impure side effects is to use effect handlers. We have handled the event and returned the effects map. The effects will add a loading flag in the appdb and somehow log our user into Firebase. We have not defined the effects yet, and we will do that in the next chapter.